Welcome, guys, to How the Frack We Got Here, a show that takes the news and events of the week and try to make sense out of it all. I'm your host, the most Will Buchanan, and on this show, we simply are all about the facts. There are plenty of news stations out there that simply want to do anything short but inform you. Here at How the Frack We Got Here, that's all we believe in. We go up to the left, we go up to the right, we go up to the middle of independence, we go up to all sides because there's more than one side of a story to everything. And you need to know it all in order to actually formulate your own opinion. And that's what we try to do here at How the Frack We Got Here. Thanks for listening, and hold on. It's going to be fun.
Come on, be happy. Be happy, CPAC. I know we kept you up late. How many of you would like to see impeachment hearings? No. That was the wrong answer. Let me try it again. How many of you would like to see impeachment hearings? No. Can someone bring some coffee out for the CPAC?
I know.
We've got to keep this House majority.
Yikes.
Yikes is right. And that was CPAC, where apparently that folks cannot understand whether or not that you want to or not want to impeach your current administration. But what do we expect? Today's date, April 1st, 2026. No, we do not have the inclination to do April Fool's Day with the way things are going on. April Fool's Day needs to be skipped for the next 10 years. But this is How the Frack We Got Here. I am your host, Will Buchanan. How the Frack We Got Here. We do take the events of the week and try to make sense out of it all. Before we do start, guys, let you know that we do pride ourselves on being a news podcast, which means we do only cite from sources with award-winning journalism. We do not do sensational news like Fox News, The Daily Beast, The Blaze, now CBS News, wherever extreme left or extreme right you get your views from. We simply don't do that. We provide you with just the facts. At the same time, we do try to watch our professionalism, but let's be honest, words do fly. At the same time, we do show things that might be too intense for younger viewers, so viewer discretion is advised. Aside from that, welcome. And no, we're not gonna show Kristi Noem's issues because, now she's asking for privacy. Well, unfortunately, your husband decided that we shouldn't kink shame, but apparently your husband has needs. But that being said, I've always sit there and said it best whenever it comes to the party of family values of moral fiber. They are always caught with their hands in the cookie jar, and then we're supposed to be okay with it. Are you freaking kidding me? I do mean, are you freaking kidding me? Because it's true. But we did start with CPAC. Why did we start with CPAC? Well, because like most things in CPAC, they never work as well as they should. Of course, CPAC used to be the home for Trump and company to come through and energize their voter base by saying how much good they've done and how Joe Biden is evil or Obama is evil or Hillary's evil or whatever villain that they have in their mind, because, leave it to Trump to, still talk about Obama and Biden, although they've been out of office for quite some time. Strangely enough, Trump did not attend the CPAC conference. Not surprising because, let's be honest, his approval ratings are in the toilet. He has no plan for Iran, which we'll get to momentarily after this, because he decided to give a little bit of a presidential address, if you can call it that. But getting back to CPAC, of course, let's be honest, for the White House, it's all panic mode right now. The president's approval ratings are in the dumpster. Gas is freaking high. We'll get to that momentarily. Jobs are becoming non-existent. Pretty much the American people are not happy about this, unless you're Kid Rock. But we'll get to that POS later. But with CPAC, and I always say about this, whenever CPAC happens, Grindr shuts down, which was the title of this show at first. CPAC or Grindr, what goes down first? I leave it to you how you take that, because yes, if you're wondering, yes, Grindr's app did fail and it failed in the area of where CPAC happened. Take that how you will. Now, yes, the president, before we came on, unfortunately, Diaper Don did decide to let us know about how well we're doing in Iraq by contradicting himself.
We are systematically dismantling the regime's ability to threaten America or project power outside of their borders. That means eliminating Iran's navy, which is now absolutely destroyed, hurting their Air Force and their missile program at levels never seen before, and annihilating their defense industrial base. We've done all of it. Their Navy is gone. Their Air Force is gone. Their missiles are just about used up or beaten. Taken together, these actions will cripple Iran military, crush their ability to support terrorist proxies, and deny them the ability to build a nuclear bomb. Our armed forces have been extraordinary. There's never been anything like it militarily. Everyone is talking about it. And tonight, I'm pleased to say that these core strategic objectives are nearing completion. As we celebrate this progress, we think especially of the 13 American warriors who have laid down their lives in this fight to prevent our children from ever having to face a nuclear Iran.
So yeah, this kind of goes on for about 15 minutes. I think almost 30 minutes he was speaking. To sum this all up, he's pretty much talking out of his ass. I find it funny that the same guy that turns around there and says, "Oh, we have destroyed Iran's military strength," yet you can't seem to get any tankers past the Strait of Hormuz. Which we did show you guys on previous podcasts, Iran's pretty much got home field advantage when it comes to that location. The same location that Iraq and Afghanistan all pull from where tankers pull from the oil and then go through there. They have to go through this little area. But unfortunately, Iran controls that little area. So I find it interesting, and I really, truly do, that he is going to turn around and sit there and say, well, Iran's military is destroyed. Really? Why are we still in a war? If Iran is obliterated, if Iran's military might is obliterated, why are we negotiating them with on one hand and then you're bombing them on the left? That's very Israel of you. At the same time, within this speech, he does talk about the fact of, oh, well, you know, we should have this wrapped up within 2 weeks. Excuse me? You are talking about a war. A war is not a project meeting. And again, I've never seen war. I've never experienced combat. I cannot talk on it. But I do know from history standpoints, you cannot treat war like it's a Microsoft Office project. He sat there and said, well, we should have this wrapped up in 2 weeks. It's not a plumbing or remodeling job. You are basically sitting there, you are basically committing another war crime by going after Iran, who, by the way, hasn't showed us any aggression since the last time they had to deal with the U.S. They've shown no aggression. And yet, he is talking about, oh, well, we're going to finally do what should have been done in Iran. You mean not mess with them? They didn't mess with us. I feel like, you know, like most wars, hey, don't start nothing, won't be nothing. And we started. But then again, like I said, it's amazing how many countries he's bombed. He's bombed 8 different countries within the year, within this term. 8 different countries this man has bombed. At the same time, he's talking about, oh, well, victory is assured. Yes, because Trump never loses, which he loses all the time. But what also in his speech, which I think is interesting, he talks about, well, I might pull the U.S. out of NATO. You're considering it. And I love the fact that he always sits there and says something like he's going to do it. Oh, well, we're going to pull out of NATO. NATO's been never helpful. No, NATO's been very helpful. NATO has actually kept the peace. But in true Trump fashion, I'm going to create a problem, then go back and solve the problem, and then wait for my participation award trophy for solving the problem that I created. That's what he's going to do. Then he talks about voter. I'm going to do an executive order to stop mail-in voting, even though he just did mail-in ballot voting for his Florida district. I find it amazing the hypocritical nature of this man. But then again, he's an 80-year-old diaper-wearing, dementia-cutting idiot. We should not be surprised of what he's trying to do. But yes, that entire presidential address of Iran, covering other stories, it might as well have been a memo. Because again, he doesn't. It's like he took no questions. He just sat there and said, "This is what we're doing," and good night, folks. And I'm amazed. I am amazed that at the same time, a record number of Republican politicians are retiring from Congress because rats see a sinking ship and they jump. At the same time, folks, it's not too far off to sit there and say what is going to happen. Because, as I've said before, the midterms can go either way. Because folks right now may be ticked off about gas, maybe ticked off about income, maybe ticked off about the price of everything. But I've always sat there and said, come November, let's see if the amnesia doesn't kick in. Like, systematically, you vote red because you think red is good and blue is bad. Or you think Democrats are evil and Republicans are smart. However, some of them may think. But there's a lot of those idiots, which makes me wonder that come November, will they still have the same idea? Will they still have that same Because again, we have noticed that whenever two very smart, highly intelligent, highly qualified individuals who are women come up against a man, for some odd reason, idiots go with the man. But we'll see come the midterms. But along with the fact that, again, Democrats, you have all this going for you right now and all the ammo in the world. And yet it's not being used as it should be. That's the thing that has always bothered me with Democrats. You guys honestly need to play dirty. They have no problem playing dirty with you. Play dirty back with them. But getting back to Trump, it's not surprising. He has no plan for Iran. And if you're depending on Harley Sober Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, because I refuse to call him Secretary of War, which I hate that ABC News, they call him Secretary of War, and I don't understand it. You can sit there. It's just like the Gulf of America. It's the Gulf of Mexico. You can sit there and name it whatever you want to, but the rest of the world sees it as this. At the same time, in order to change something in Congress, you need congressional approval. Hardly sober Pete Hegseth doesn't have congressional approval. He has congressional beer, congressional whiskey, because every time I see that man, it looks like he's just coming off a bender. And at the same time, he wants to be Secretary of War. And this guy, no. I'm sorry. If for most people who are Secretary of Defense, war is the last thing that they want to do. This man goes running right into it, even so much that he decides to give himself a cool moniker. Like he was one of those guys that never really made the armed forces, so he decided to stick out in the National Guard and just pretend to play Army. No disrespect to the National Guard. It's just the fact that y'all got stuck with him. But the thing that I'm getting at here is, guys, it's just that Trump has no plan for Iran. He had a plan for Vietnam, bone spurs, and daddy's money. But now he is gearing up to go after Iran. And here's my thing. This is another Vietnam situation. The Vietnamese had home field advantage, and it took another president to realize this is a losing battle. So what happened? We had to pull out of Vietnam. What do you think is going to happen? We did the same thing in Iraq. We did the same thing in Afghanistan. You don't think Iran's going to be different? That we're going to be wasting money, lives, resources, and above all else, time to go mess with a country that did not mess with us. But again, if you believe Hegseth, if Iran is wise, they will cut a deal. What for? Because at the same time, guys, you caused the problem. For no effing reason, you caused the problem. And now the American public has to pay for it. Simple as that. But speaking of things the American people had to pay for, because again, with airlines, if you were flying within the last week or week beforehand, God bless you, because again, TSA workers are not getting paid because of a partial government shutdown. Yet, it is amazing to me that, and I've said this before in this podcast, it's just that in the midst of a government shutdown, representatives and senators get paid. Representatives, U.S. representatives, and U.S. senators still get paid. Why? It's in the Constitution. They get paid out of the U.S. Treasury during a government shutdown. And I've always found that wrong. The lawmakers who have been put in place to ensure that folks that government is running, when the government is not running or partially shut down, those folks should not get paid. Their benefits and whatever luxuries or whatever you want to say, the things that were given to them based on their positions needs to be removed. removed, suspended, halted, however you say it. Their pay should be suspended because it's your job to keep the government running. The government's running. The government isn't running. You shouldn't get paid. Even more so, getting back to TSA workers, because again, these people were put in a job to where if you didn't get paid, although working for the TSA, which again, I understand not the most glamorous job, but it's a job. At the same time, it is kind of a security job because TSAs are always needed in airports. But imagine, like we said before in the last podcast, imagine you coming to work for free. Those folks didn't get paid. Those folks haven't been paid since February. They just now, thanks to again, Diaper Donald deciding to say, "Hey, we need to fund the TSA through DHS and get them funded to get these people paid." And some people did get there. Some people did get some back pay, but not all pay. And some people still haven't got paid. But imagine the fact that you are working this job and your bills still come through. You might have kids. You might have other responsibilities. You might have other people depending upon you. And you're going to essentially to work for free to where that the promise of a paycheck may come eventually. I don't blame half those TSA workers for calling out or just flat out quitting, because regardless of you not getting paid, it doesn't stop the bills. It doesn't stop your bills from coming through, whether or not you are getting paid or not. So yes, this did lead to a hiccup, to a backup of folks trying to fly. But the first two videos I want to show, this one, I have to give kudos to TMZ at the end for actually doing something journalistic that I did not see coming. But this is the first video.
The paycheck suspended during the government shutdown. We'll revisit Newark Airport with the fallout. Good morning, Will.
Hi, George. Good morning to you. A pretty smooth situation here at Newark Airport so far. The sign showing the wait time less than 5 minutes, and similar scenes at those major airports around the country yesterday. Both Houston airports, Baltimore, Philly, Atlanta, JFK, all those ones that had such issues with those long lines amid this partial government shutdown. They all reported minimal delays yesterday, although airport officials do warn things could change, so check your current wait times if you are headed to an airport. And as long as TSA officers are getting their money, far fewer of them are calling in sick. That'll mean shorter lines, but it is not clear how they'll continue to get paid moving forward after President Trump's memo from last week that did get them their back pay. TSA officers we've spoken to say they've either gotten back pay for 2 pay periods or 1 and are expecting the remainder of their pay on Thursday. But a permanent end to this partial government shutdown, nowhere in sight, because Congress has gone on its planned and paid 2-week recess despite widespread calls in Washington from the White House, from the union that represents TSA workers and others, to get back to D.C. and to hammer out a deal to end what is now officially the longest shutdown in U.S. history, George.
As you mentioned, Will, lawmakers getting paid, lots of frustration with that.
Yes, absolutely. And to the point that TMZ has put out an all points bulletin. If people see lawmakers out and about, to take pictures, hold them accountable. Senator Lindsey Graham was photographed at Disney World. Another lawmaker was in Vegas, although he claims that he was visiting his father. But yes, a lot of frustration, although currently not so much frustration at this specific airport, anecdotally, George.
Will Reed.
So what's amazing about this is just that, again, TSA workers are getting paid, backs up the lines to get to the airport. Folks either miss flights or things of that nature, but representatives and senators are living their best lives. Currently, right now, on break, because they did not, thankfully, and I say this before I go into the other part of this, did not fund anything from the SAVE Act. The DHS is still not funded. ICE is still looking for money and then some. But the thing about all this is, and a lot of people are still saying, why is people still getting paid? Well, because it's in the Constitution. U.S. representatives and U.S. senators get paid regardless. That's always there to say, the most adept, really the best career you can have is in politics, because regardless of it all, you still get paid. And I always thought that was messed up, because other government workers, those that work in government offices, things of that nature, they don't get paid during a shutdown. They're stuck. Whereas senators and representatives, regardless if they're Democratic, Republican, or Independent, still get paid either way, still can go on vacation, still go on trips. Now, here's the reason why I say all this, that again, with all this going on, people looking at the TSA like people who want to travel, especially during post spring break and now going into Easter, folks want to travel. And now, it was at first a nightmare to travel. I think some airports are still, reporting that, since TSA agents getting paid, more showing back up to work, lines have died down. But here's what I think would happen. I don't think it was the pay that finally tipped the scales, although, it should have gotten back to all TSA agents in multiples. Here's what I say, because this video came up and they said something that I think got a lot of politicians' attention that made them think, okay, we need to do something because I am not losing my Delta privileges.
Delta Airlines putting pressure on lawmakers, stopping Congressmember perks for now. These perks included services like airport escorts and red coat services.
They should, yes, very fair. They should do it all the time, though, not just this time.
Leslie Lumpkins disagrees and thinks travel needs to be seamless for lawmakers.
Our elected officials need to be protected. They need to travel because they need to represent us.
In a video statement, Senator Raphael Warnock spoke on the stalemate between the parties.
Everybody agrees that we ought to fund the TSA workers. They don't ask us, are we Democrats or Republicans? They keep us safe every single day.
Travelers are just hoping the two parties can come together and do the right thing.
A lot of people, two paychecks away from being homeless.
Okay, let me stop it right there because that some bitch, I can't stand him. Because yes, who looks like he should be the villain in every Cartoon Network show that you can think of. This might as well be a villain from a Tyler Perry movie. The thing I'm getting at is, guys, is what I was saying beforehand. Delta suspended the travel perks for Congress members, which means you didn't get a red coat service, you didn't get straight to your flight, things of that nature. Delta said, no, you're not getting those perks. This is why I sat there, and this is why I kept saying, like, oh, when Delta turns around, because a lot of the representatives do use Delta. Now that Delta said you don't get special treatment, that's when they said, oh, we need to figure out what to do with these TSA workers. You're not messing up my perks. When it was fine for the TSA workers, I blame more the Republicans than I do more the Democrats. And people are going to say, why? I said, well, Republicans still hold majorities in the House, Senate, and they hold the executive office. They really and truly could have funded the 7 bills that the Democrats put in just sorely funding TSA. For a lot of people who don't know that, Democrats put in 7 bills that said, hey, let's just fund the TSA. We'll figure out DHS. We'll figure out ICE later. But let's actually help the folks that actually need it. And 7 times the Republicans said no. And let's not also forget the week before last, we sat there and showed that Diaper Dawn sat there and said, well, I want to encourage Republicans not to accept any bills from the Democrats if it's not funding his SAVE Act, which again is voter suppression. It's the new it's basically Jim Crow 3.0. But with that being said, it's amazing when Delta said, oh, we're going to suspend your perks. That's when they sat there and said, oh, no. I need my perks. And I would say this, some of the politicians didn't fly. Some of them took Amtrak, depending on where they live. And then some of them, like Lindsey Graham, decided to go on vacation, holding a wand at Walt Disney World. We're not going to judge for a guy that considers himself manly, but I call him Trump's best fluffer. I'll leave. I'm not going to explain what a fluffer is. If you don't know what a fluffer is, that's on you. But I always say Lindsey Graham is, Trump's favorite fluffer. But at the same time, guys, it never ceases to amaze me that if there's something that needs to change in Congress, it's that. I do believe that that Constitution should be amended. That in the midst of a government shutdown, politicians should not get paid, their perks removed, and government workers should ensure that they still get their paychecks. Because if you can't keep the government running, why are you getting paid for a job that you're not doing? That's all I'm saying. But moving right along, guys. Unfortunately, I do got 2 stories from Nashville because Tennessee is a progressively backward-ass state, and unfortunately, I live here. That being said, Kid Rock failed hip-hop artist, failed pretty much everything. Got a Black Hawk show, I guess, at his home, to which the Army did suspend that flight crew that was on those Black Hawks, because the Black Hawks that were flying around Kid Rock home, even though Kid Rock saluted them and made it seem like it was great, not. But let's be honest, somebody's got to explain the use of military aircraft at a civilian's home, even if that civilian's an idiot. That being said, hardly sober Pete Hegseth sat there and said, nothing to see here.
Headline after those U.S. Army Apache attack helicopters hovered over Kid Rock's house, the performer saluting them. Tonight, what's now happened to those Army pilots? Let's get right to Martha Raddatz.
David, tonight, a major reversal. Early today, the Army said they had suspended the 4 crew members of those Apache attack helicopters, which were seen in that video doing a low-level flyby in front of the home of singer Kid Rock in Nashville. He could be seen waving and then saluting the crew. The Army saying they take any allegations of unauthorized or unsafe flight operations very seriously. President Trump, who is a friend of Kid Rock's, even said they probably shouldn't have been doing it. You're not supposed to be playing games. But shortly after the president made those comments, Secretary Pete Hegseth said on X, the U.S. Army pilots' suspensions lifted. No punishment, no investigation. Carry on, patriots, he said, and thanked Kid Rock. David?
Martha Raddatz back with us.
Yeah, sad but true. That, hey, hardly sober Pete Hegseth sat there and said, no punishment, no suspension, no punishment, no investigation. Nothing to see here, folks. It's just good old boys celebrating good old boys. Even though there is a call for an ethics investigation into Hegseth, as well as the Army, as well as the flight crew for those two Apache helicopters, because again, you have to explain why 2 Black Hawk helicopters decided to joyride in front of a failed artist. Yes, Kid Rock, in my opinion, is ought to be a failed artist. Let's just be honest. He fails at almost everything. But the crazy part about all this is that, again, it's good old boys. Oh, well, we're gonna leave that alone. It's nothing to see here. Yes, it is. Because had it been anybody else, I'll put it this way: if Black Hawk helicopter showed up at Young Buck's house or Starlito's house, oh, they would sit there and say, oh, well, they must be part of a drug raid. Trust me, they would say it. But because it's Kid Rock, nothing to see here. Really? But we'll see what happens, because like I said, the Army can still call an investigation, regardless of what the Secretary of Defense thinks. Because somebody needs to be held accountable why 2 flight crews thought it was okay to take $1 million equipment and just take it out like it's a golf cart. But I digress. The No Kings protest happened this past weekend, and again drew very large numbers.
Overnight, millions of people across the country taking to the streets, from New York to Dallas to Chicago to Los Angeles. Organizers say that there were 3,000 separate demonstrations this weekend spanning across the country. The protests, coined as part of the No Kings Day, aimed at voicing opposition to President Trump and his administration.
I think that it says that there are an awful lot of people who are not satisfied with what's going on, who are very unhappy with what's going on, and are looking for a way to express that unhappiness.
It's the 3rd No Kings protest since Trump was elected in 2024. Demonstrators holding signs criticizing Trump's policies as an abuse of power, citing his actions in Iran. And in Minnesota, protesters braving the snow.
Dictatorships fall when people rise. And that's what we're doing. We're all rising up together. Are you ready?
Calling out the president's deployment of ICE, holding signs with the face of Alex Preddy and Renee Good, who were shot and killed by federal officers earlier this year. Celebrities also showing up, Bruce Springsteen performing Streets of Minneapolis to thousands at the state capitol. Saturday's protest the largest so far and even spreading internationally, with people gathering on the streets of Rome. And the White House dismissed the nationwide protest as a product of leftist funding networks with little real public support. But it was incredible to see all of those people there all across the
massive crowd.
Yeah, it was great. It was actually great because the No Kings protest was not just a one-time thing. It actually did gain traction and again had more people. Now, the reason why I bring this up is because if you've been on TikTok or you've been somewhere else on Facebook, you've probably seen this clip of this guy. And again, whenever it comes to white guys being independent journalists, they're just right-wing idiots that want clout. This guy thought he was throwing a question about the lack of people of color at these No Kings protests. And shout out to Grandma. And I do mean Grandma shut his ass down.
I'm an independent journalist. I wonder if I could talk to you for a little bit.
Yeah, why not?
Awesome. What brings you here?
Get rid of the autocracy. No kings.
Yeah, awesome. How do we get rid of it?
How do we get rid of it? By organizing the population and voting him out and supporting down ballot candidates who are going to protect the Constitution and going to protect democracy.
Yeah. When you say vote him out, I know according to the Constitution he's got to get out in 2028.
I wouldn't be surprised if he maneuvers it so that there isn't even an election. We have to prevent that.
Okay. And did you go to the previous No Kings protests?
No, my husband. This sign was here, but I wasn't.
I gotcha. Okay.
I went to the first one, not the second one, and this one.
And how do you think the efforts are going? How do you think the protests are?
It's building. This is the biggest one yet.
Yeah, I know it's millions of people.
Millions of people and more public information about it. You had a lot of bigwigs talking about it on social media and organizing people. You had people explaining why it's worthwhile to get out on the street and participate. So I think it's going to be much bigger than the previous ones.
Gotcha, understood. And do you feel that Trump will see these protests and think twice about running a third term?
No.
What do you think it's for, the protests?
It's for building a movement against autocracy and against the destruction of the Constitution. In Chile, they took them 10 years to get, or is it 10 or 20? It took them 10 years at least to get their dictator out. It takes time, but we'll get him out.
Yeah. Can I ask you a question? I'm kind of disappointed as a New Yorker. Like, I'm seeing around the protests, and it seems like there's a lack of diversity here today. That it's mostly people who look like you and I. And I just
it is not for black people, for people of color to get out on the street. They're at risk when they do that. If anybody's going to get arrested here, it's going to be a black person. It is not safe for them, and they don't need to participate. We need to walk in their name.
Gotcha. Okay. Wow. Okay. What do you think about voter ID? Do you think it's racist?
It's 100% a tactic to control the population and prevent people from voting, so that the only votes so that the gerrymandering can work, so that white voters can vote in white Christian males.
Okay. Do you think that non-citizens should be able to vote?
No.
Okay.
Of course not.
I know that. Do you think that there's a lot of undocumented immigrants here?
They're not voting. They're not asking to vote.
I know. I'm saying that. I'm saying that a lot of Schumer has said that we should give them amnesty. Do you support that?
Amnesty means that they can stay here without being deported.
Yes.
A pathway to citizenship.
Yeah.
A pathway to citizenship.
Okay.
That's what we should give.
My last question for you, you said something interesting, which is that you've got to walk in their name for black people. Do you feel that could be considered racist, that you're speaking for them, or no?
I'm responding to what people have said on social media, that we can do safely because of our privilege what they shouldn't do, and I don't think it's
so
racist.
There was a black person protesting right here with the police just coming.
I would support that person and protect them.
Gotcha. Wonderful. And where do you get your news?
My what?
Where do you get your news?
Oh yeah, I get it on Instagram, V Spihar, under the desk news.
Okay, so I'm sorry.
Under the desk news.
I haven't seen it.
I don't do YouTube as much as I do Instagram, which I wish I didn't do Instagram.
Yeah.
But I do have my sources there, trusted sources.
Yeah.
And she is one, and Aaron Parnas is also very good.
Yeah.
And there's others. Heather Cox Richardson does a daily summary of what's going on.
Have you been voting blue most of your life?
I voted blue in the womb.
So I love the fact, and first off, to grandma, and I don't mean to call you grandma. I don't mean to call you grandma. I really don't. But grandma gets it. Also, Nate Friedman, I don't try to cuss on this podcast, but Nate Friedman, the guy in the red hat right there with the gotcha questions, fuck you. Fuck you. Wholeheartedly. Because the reason why I say that, folks, and again, that's the only cuss word I'm going to say in this podcast. He tried his hardest for gotcha questions, because that's what those guys do. Nate Friedman, Ben Shapiro, they always do the gotcha questions. He couldn't, I mean, they do it for clout. It's like Charlie Kirk showed them the blueprint. Oh, let me go in here and just do gotcha questions, because he tried to do that with her. He tried to sit there and say, "Oh, well, what are we really progressing forward with this No Kings? You know, what are you really here for?" And Grandma didn't miss a beat. Grandma didn't miss a beat. And then he got to the question he wanted to ask. I don't see people of color during this No Kings protest. Is there a reason for that? I think I'm just saying, as a New Yorker, they should be out here. Grandma shut his ass down. They don't need to be here. This isn't them. This is us. And the moment I heard Grandma say that, I was like, oh, she said it all. She said it all. She said, because if they were out here, they would be harassed, they would be arrested, they would be all these things because they're out here. It's better for them to stay at home, and we march in their name. We use our privilege to back them up. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the definition of an ally. And you can see look at his face like, oh shit. I wasn't prepared for this. I thought she was gonna snap on me. She used logic. I wasn't ready for this. Well, what if a black person was right there beside you? How would you feel about that? I would support them. Well, don't you think that talking for black people like this is racist? Only white people. And I'm not saying all white people, because there's a whole bunch of you seasoned male folks out there, and I say it all the time. You seasoned male white folks, I'd never have a problem with, because y'all get it. But the unbleached, the saltines, the ones in the red hats like Mr. Nate Friedman right here, you're idiots. But they'll be the first ones to sit there and say, well, isn't that racist that you're speaking on behalf of black people? No, dumbass. That's the difference. There's an ally, and then there's a person like you who only wants to sit there and, call yourself a journalist, but at the same time doing what you do best. You guys are basically drones for clout. You are drones for clout. That is all you guys are. And shout out to Grandma. Grandma sat there, shut his ass down, and I am not complaining. I thought that was honestly the coolest shit. I really did. I really thought that was cool, how she literally sat there and shut his ass down and explained facts. You can, I mean, all I can do is sit there, stand up, and I applauded when I saw it. So to that woman out there, I know you have a name, ma'am, but we will call you Grandma. Grandma, thank you. You have literally shown what you need to do as an ally. Use your position, use your privilege to speak out for others, because yes, she's 100% right. Because black people did try to protest. What happened? Because I use those examples all the time. During No Kings, Occupy Wall Street, during the senseless shootings from law enforcement on people of color did march. People of color did protest. And what happened? Law enforcement, riot gear, detainment. and black people being hurt. But if you notice these No Kings rallies, and I say it's for all black people always sit there and said, look, we're done. We tried it. They didn't want to listen to us. So you know what? We're out. So I'm not knocking the fact that, no black people are at these No Kings rallies. That's not for us. But the fact that grandma out there, grandma nailed it perfectly, is the reason why Nate Friedman didn't get the gotcha moment that he wanted, because she spoke facts that we need to speak up. We need to protest. We need to be allies to people of color and not worry about whether or not they're here or not. I just thought that was freaking cool. But like I said, I did have two pieces of news from Tennessee. I did speak about the first one where Kid Rock got apparently a helicopter introduction. This happened in Rutherford County about a librarian. A librarian was ordered to move books that had LGBTQ plus authors for kids to be moved to the adult section. She refused. That being said, they decided to fire her. And again, I can't make this up.
A growing dispute between the Rutherford County Library Board and its executive director was at the forefront at a special meeting this evening. The library director refused to follow a board order to relocate more than 100 LGBTQ-themed children's books to the adult section. Our Patsy Montesinos was at that meeting and tells us what measures the board took.
In an 8-3 decision, the Rutherford County Library Board voted to fire Library Director Dr. Luann James.
I guess all I'm going to say is that I stand by my decision. I will not change my mind.
This after James refused to comply with the board order to relocate more than 100 children's books, many of which had LGBTQ plus themes or female empowerment, diversity, witches, and social justice.
To have a 6-year-old come across a book that starts showing full nudity, that starts showing the fact that a boy can be a girl, or the idea that a boy can be a girl and a girl can be a boy, at 6 years old, I don't think that's appropriate.
They are steamrolling over the First Amendment. They should be ashamed of themselves. They are taking the freedom to read away from children, taking the freedom of read away from adults.
Earlier this month, the board voted to move those books into the adult section of the library. But James, through her attorney, argued the move violated First Amendment rights.
Librarians should not be used as a filter for political agendas. I stood up for the right to read, standing for the citizens of Rutherford County. I believe my firing is unlawful, an act of viewpoint discrimination.
After Monday night's special meeting, the board chair told News Channel 5 he had no comment on why James was fired, while the community remained split over whether the books should be removed.
Director James understood that once you start removing books to avoid discomfort, you are no longer running a library. You are curating a narrative. You are narrowing the world instead of expanding it. And that is something she refused to do. That refusal, grounded in principle, not politics, is what makes her my hero.
I want to extend my appreciation to those who voted in favor of relocating the inappropriate books out of the minor section into the adult section. I want to encourage you all to continue to move forward with decisions that best protect the children. Doing what is best can be a difficult thing.
In Rutherford County, I'm Patsy Montesinos, News.
So what's crazy about this? Now, keep in mind, what's crazy about this, folks? It's books. Books that had authors from the LGBTQ plus. And these books were designed for kids. And I'm going to be honest, and I might break my rule about cussing again. There are some ignorant assholes who are in positions they shouldn't be in about moving books to the adult section. Because here's the argument. Here is the argument. Oh, well, I just want it in the adult section because I don't want children to be influenced by these books. You don't want your children in a public library. See, here's the thing that always kills me whenever it comes public. If you want something done to where it benefits you, it's not public. It isn't. When you want something to be done that benefits you and you alone, it is not public. So, but it amazes me that those specifically of a tight ass religious nature always want the public to bend to them. I don't want my young child reading a story that was made for a child that was done by an LGBTQ plus author. Here's my counter to this. You don't want your child reading a book by an LGBTQ plus author. Would you rather have your child read a book that was written and illustrated by a person of color? It wasn't too long ago, and I point this out because history doesn't forget. It wasn't too long ago, because Rutherford County, Williamson County, even here in Davidson, they all, and again, and not just Tennessee, but unfortunately more of the southern states, all tried to push for certain books to be removed from libraries. Those certain books were people of color, LGBTQ plus, and some books that they considered racist. To Kill a Mockingbird, Of Mice and Men, The Grapes of Wrath, Fahrenheit 451, 1984. I can keep going down the list because they consider those books not detrimental. And the thing that kills me out of all this is that instead of that entire listing of those authors, they focused on one group now. LGBTQ plus. And I'm going to be honest with you. I don't care how you live your life. As long as you're not harming anyone else and everybody's got consent, live the life you want to live, however you want to live it. But the argument is we're trying to protect our children. What the fuck are you protecting your children from? Oh, well, I don't want them to think that they're gay early. That's what they're not saying. I don't want them to think that they're lesbian. I don't want them to think that they're queer. I don't want them to think that they're trans. I don't want them to think that they're non-binary. They're just kids. It amazes me so from a group of people that are so religious, that are supposed to accept everybody, how discriminated that you guys get when you see something that you don't agree with or it doesn't match what you're comfortable with. At the same time, these are children's books curated by a librarian who literally went to school for this, which is another part of this I don't understand. You have folks, and I say before, if you're not an educator, if you do not have a degree in literal arts or just in educational studies, if you are not a child therapist, if you are not a child psychologist, if you have never worked with treatment with children with mental issues, if you have no qualifications or experiences in any of that, and you've never been an educator, how the frack are you going to sit there and tell, oh, well, we need these books to be moved to the adult section because we want to move these away from kids because out of sight, out of mind. That's what you're saying in this case. And props to that librarian. Props to the librarian saying, I will not comply. I will not comply to make you religious tight asses feel comfortable because you are afraid of your children branching out and realizing that there's more out there to this world. Which again, also the librarian's name, forgive me, Dr. Luann James. And I love how they said it. Librarians should not be used as a filter for political agendas because a library is public. That means that everybody there who are citizens, I mean, if you're not citizens, if you're residents of that area, you can go enjoy the library. And I'll be the first person to say it. Libraries are freaking awesome. Especially with the fact of things that you can do there now, the fact that, as far as services and other things, the library is not just books. Sometimes the library is actually an area for common services for a lot of people to enjoy if you don't know. At the same freaking time, folks, it is amazing to me the limit that you wonder. I always said it best, and I'm kind of thankful. I'm class 2001. I am thankful my education was never restricted. I am thankful that My library access was never restricted. It was actually encouraged. I'm thankful I had teachers that taught more than just the curriculum. I'm thankful I was encouraged to expand my horizons and my cultural awareness, because honestly, those things made me the pendejo I am. And I've always sat there and said, embrace differences. But we must protect the children. Oh, please. If you want to protect the children, why don't you go after those that are behind the cloth that are always being caught with children doing some heinous shit? Then I'll believe you. But until then, because you guys wanted to kill Drag Time Story Hour, yet youth pastor in some church gets caught with his hand in the cookie jar, or with with materials that, you know, a person of his stature shouldn't have, that actually violate certain federal laws. Miss me with protecting the children bullshit. You want to hide this because you're afraid of change. You're afraid of progress. You're afraid that if you expand, you are afraid that if your child's thinking expands, you will find out how limited yours is. But hey, you can always join the library, because 130, like I said before, we see what happens when they went after authors of color, female authors, and LGBTQ+. They're just limiting down the line now, especially the public library. But again, I digress. We'll keep up with this story because, yes, she was relieved of her post. We'll see what happens after that. But like I said, it's bullshit. Really and true bullshit. And I apologize. It's the third time I've cussed. Anyway, gas is high. Who's surprised? Not me.
War with Iran. It is spreading as restrictions on oil supply have pushed the average price of a gallon of gas past the $4 mark. That happened overnight. Elizabeth Schultz starts us off. Good morning, Elizabeth.
Good morning, George. This is a record-breaking spike in the cost of gas. According to Gas Buddy, the national average is now above $4 a gallon for the first time in more than 3 years. Gas prices are up $1.07 since the start of the Iran war, marking the biggest monthly increase on record. Diesel is up $1.70 a gallon. That is also the biggest spike ever in 1 month. This all comes down to surging oil prices. We are in the middle of an historic shock to the world's oil supply because of the standstill at the Strait of Hormuz, and it could take months or even years to ramp oil production back up at facilities in the Middle East that have been damaged during the war.
So does that mean relief at the pump will take months or years?
It could. As long as oil prices are up, we could see gas prices keep rising too. So this is not going to happen as long as we have these elevated levels of oil. Moody's Analytics says that oil at this level for a year will cost the typical household about $1,200 in higher gas and diesel costs. And these costs really are now getting passed down. JetBlue is raising baggage fees to help pay for surging jet fuel. So keep in mind, the all-time high for gas was $5 on average. That was in 2022 after Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Back then, overall inflation was at 9%. So the most recent read of inflation right now is closer to 2.5%, but it is very likely we will see overall prices.
Yeah,
only
because
go
you're
up
also
from
seeing
here.
fuel surcharges and other kinds of deliveries.
And those are higher costs on consumer. That gets rippling throughout the economy, and that is something we will continue to see in the weeks and months ahead.
Yeah.
So I say again, who's gonna travel now? Because again, with the rising costs, $4 a gallon, there's only two people that win in a war. There's only two people that win in a war: oil companies, gun and ammo manufacturers. It's Christmas for them. But at the same time, it does pose a problem. I mean, with fuel going up, that means, and not just fuel, I mean, not across the board. With the cost of oil going up, gas is going to go up. I wouldn't be surprised if we hit $5. I know in California it's hitting $6 a gallon right now. So you got to think. And for a lot of us, we need our vehicles to get around. We do not, I mean, for a lot of areas, we do not have alternative forms of travel. Unfortunately, we don't have rail systems. We don't have, I mean, some areas do have Amtrak. Unfortunately, we don't. In the South, we don't have alternatives outside of Ubers, cars, and air travel. And all those are going to go up. Ubers, Lyfts, those fees are going to go up. Airfare alone is going to go up. I mean, me and my pals in our podcast group are like, we don't know if we'll be able to go to cons because, I mean, airfare tickets are finna be ha 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 and say hi. But the airline companies are not going to complain because they're going to wind up winning. At the same time, like I said, when it comes to fuel, everything increases. So your groceries are going to increase. Truckers going to spend more to haul groceries from coast to coast. Shipping is going to increase because, again, the cost of oil to actually get diesel generators that run electrical charging stations are going to go up more. Everything is going to go up more. Why? Because for the simple fact of the matter, Taco, I know it's a name I haven't said in a while, but Trump decided to go to war with Iran, not realizing Iran holds a very key strategic strait to which all tankers can go through. And depending on which lie you believe Trump has said, and I said depending on which lie, whether Iran's military is completely decimated or there's one guy out there with a rocket launcher going now. The thing is, guys, that everything's going up from a problem he created. And does that mean they're going to pull from the National Strategic War Reserve? Well, Biden did to actually help reduce the cost of gas prices at the pump when he was in office. I don't expect Trump to do the same thing, except, still claim victory over something that really didn't happen, or at least in his mind didn't happen because, dimension written and all that. But I digress. Also, another story, two more stories, guys, before we get to our feel good segment. I thought this was, I thought when I first saw this, and what I mean when I first saw this, I thought this was funny as shit. January 6 rioters accused police of excessive force in a class action lawsuit. Yeah, you heard that right. The domestic terrorists from January 6th have a class action lawsuit against police for excessive force. Right. Somehow, I don't think this is considered excessive force. Now, for all those who are wondering, is this for real? Unfortunately, it is. The reason being is the lawsuit has been filed up against the federal government for millions of dollars of damages for the domestic terrorists trying to attack the Capitol back in 2021. And they call themselves, and I wish I could make this up as I'm reading this article. Let me straight to this fast. So, quote unquote, the lawsuit filed in on Florida on Friday alleges that police indiscriminately launched explosive munitions, chemical agents, and impacted projectiles into a peaceful crowd and physically assaulted members of the crowd as rioters stormed the Capitol to contest the certification of Joe Biden's 2020 presidential victory. Peaceful? Peaceful. All I can say is, I don't know who was the attorney that thinks this is going to fly, but the defense is going to have a field day with that one. And here's the thing that I find the hypocrisy of this all, that these domestic terrorists will sit there because all of them were pardoned by Trump. All of them are pardoned by Trump. Some are back in jail for various other crimes, but all of them are pardoned by Trump. And now trying to sit there and say, well, we were discriminated against by excessive force by the police. So let me get this straight. You guys are the same guys that went up to the protest in Kenosha and said, you guys deserved it. You guys talked about Occupy Wall Street and said, you guys deserved it. You guys talked about when people of color and other marched against law enforcement deaths, for cops killing black people getting away with it. You also said that was the protesters' fault. But for some odd freaking reason, when it comes to you, you guys are the victims. The ones that were armored, that had tasers, that pinned an officer in a revolving door to the point to where his arm was about to come off. At the same time, about to storm the Capitol because you were riled up by Trump to stop the steal. And somehow you're the victims. Miss me with the bullshit. Like I said, it'll be interesting what they do with that case because I so want to see the plaintiffs argue with this one because the defense is going to be like, Your Honor, do we need to play the tape again to prove that, they're full of shit? We'll see. But the last story I got before I got our feel good news segment, guys, is about the Supreme Court hearing birthright citizenship arguments. Keep in mind, Trump wanted to turn around and amend the 14th Amendment, which guarantees all U.S. citizens born in the U.S. to be made citizens. He wants to amend it for those that if your parents are non-documented, then you yourself cannot be a U.S. citizen. And of course, he took it to his favorite court, the Supreme Court. Again, a court that has apparently have heard every one of his arguments in the same year it's happened. Let me play this and then let me explain what happened afterwards, because Trump wasn't too happy.
Push to redefine U.S. citizenship. On his first day in office, the president signed an order to limit citizenship to only children born in the U.S. to parents who are legal permanent residents or citizens. The 14th Amendment and federal law say all persons born or naturalized in the U.S. and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens. But the administration argues children of illegal or temporary residents were never considered subject to the jurisdiction of the U.S. because they still owe political allegiance to a foreign nation. Opponents say the law applies to all children born on U.S. soil, regardless of their parents' legal status, and that changing it would unleash chaos nationwide. Now, Trump says he'll attend the arguments in person, making him the first sitting president to ever do so. Let's bring in senior Washington reporter Devin Dwyer for more on this. Hi, Devin. So what happens if the court does uphold this order?
It would be a remarkable change for all of us, Diane, and the impact could be sweeping, most directly, of course, impacting the estimated 255,000 children born every year who would then lose citizenship, presumably born to one or more parents who are non-citizens. Those babies could be then subject to arrest, deportation. In some cases, they may be stateless, have no citizenship because they were not born in the country of their parents. So it would be quite a complicated and impactful decision for them. But then you have the bigger question for all parents going forward in this country and parents to be. Birth certificates in the United States have for generations, over a century, been the key to unlocking the benefits of citizenship. You use a birth certificate, get a passport, apply for a home mortgage, voter registration, getting those social security numbers and those social security benefits. If the executive order takes effect, that will all change. A birth certificate alone will no longer be sufficient proof of citizenship. So what does that mean? Well, the government details in a number of memos that ABC News has revealed, basically a bureaucratic gauntlet for parents and new parents to have to prove their citizenship to the government before they can apply for a social security number for their kid or receive any of the benefits that come with that.
Do you think Trump's presence in the courtroom will affect today's arguments at all?
It's a great question. No president has ever attended an oral argument before, so it's going to be potentially quite dramatic. I'll be inside the courtroom in just under an hour. It is a very intimate setting, Diane. The gallery and where the president will sit is, 10 steps from the bench. He will be able to stare all of those justices in the eyes, including the 3 justices he appointed to the bench. And as you know, he has been quite critical of the Supreme Court, given their decision on his tariff program, calling particularly Neil Gorsuch, Amy Coney Barrett, disloyal, unpatriotic, an embarrassment to their families. So for the president to sit in that room, to sit behind his handpicked attorney, John Sauer, who will argue this case, it's going to be quite something to see.
All right, Devin Dwyer.
Oh, it was quite something to see. Even more so the fact that it looks like the Supreme Court will actually go against it. And to which I'm pretty sure Diaper Don is going to be mad that he didn't get his way, and wham, you people are idiots, and all the above. Because let's be honest, this is literally a no-brainer. If you are in the U.S., if you are born in the U.S., you are a U.S. citizen. That's it. No ifs, ands, or buts. If you are born in the U.S., you are a U.S. citizen. That's it, regardless of who your parents are. And that's how it should be. Of course, Trump argues that, well, that was really for former slaves. No, sir. Because let's also be honest. If that was to be true, you yourself would not be a U.S. citizen. Your Secretary of State would not be a U.S. citizen. But I can keep going down the list. But what I'm saying here, folks, is just that, number one, this is Trump trying to, again, and I said before, the midterms are scaring him, that a lot of Republicans are trying to get out, because I'll say it again on this podcast. I do think this current group of the GOP, along with Trump and his administration, should all be tried for treason. All of them should be tried and found convicted of guilty for treason against the American public, really and truly. But let's also be honest. The midterms are coming up. Time marches on. We still got another 7 months or so. But the midterms are coming. Trump's approval ratings are in the toilet. He just entered into a war with Iran that he can't get out of, that he caused himself. Price of gas is staggering. Price of everything is going up. Jobs are being lost. And in his mind, he thinks everything's winning. Republicans are panicking because if I'm the Democrats, I am replaying every decision Trump has done. I am showing every effect Trump has done. At the same time, here's my campaign promise. Help us get 2/3 of Congress. Trump is gone. Not only is Trump gone, but everyone in his administration is gone. Because like I said, guys, if I'm the Democrats, I'm shooting for 2/3 of Congress. If I get 2/3 of Congress, the majority in the House, the majority in the Senate, it doesn't matter about Trump being there for the last of his term. If Democrats were all on the same page, and they had only one goal to basically undo everything this current president has done, I'm just saying midterms will look like a blue wave. Now, do I think that'll happen? I'm gonna be honest with you guys. We've been in this situation before where everything was going against Trump, and yet for some odd reason on election night, folks have amnesia. Now, do I think for midterms will folks have amnesia again? We'll see. But like I said, Trump is panicking because he knows if the Democrats do get majority, his ass is impeached. And without the presidential seat to save his ass, well, he may be in jail or under a jail or may not be with us, depending on how you look at his health. But we'll see. Well, we're going to move on to our feel-good segment because usually on our Frack We Got Here, we usually take a lot of things that are doom and gloom, sometimes make you the faith of humanity. But hey, it's Wednesday. Tomorrow's Thursday. We'll leave you guys on some positive, good vibrations, active kindness. And this is about March Madness, but I thought this was pretty cool as well.
This is the moment of sweet surprise from one dad to another. The gift of March Madness.
You played it pretty cool. Look at this.
For Tim Coffey, it's a tradition that began with his own father. Growing up, they'd watch games and compare brackets, traveling the country to cheer on their teams.
Watching the games with my dad was my favorite thing. He let time stop.
The family tradition continued into adulthood until his dad passed away from cancer last August.
As I'm watching these games, anytime my phone goes off, it's never gonna say dad.
So to honor his father, this March, Tim decided to pay it forward his way.
This was a no-brainer. You guys have the best dad.
Surprising another deserving dad with tickets.
Max, what do you think? Free to take these boys to the Sweet 16?
I heard what he said, but it took a moment to register. Whoa, I can't believe this,
Max Clark is no stranger to Tim. Their families connected through a mentorship program 14 years ago, and they've helped each other through hard times ever since.
This is a tradition my family always had. It only feels right that now their family has it.
Tonight, Max and his boys are on their way to the game.
The only person I could think that would have loved that moment more than me and this opportunity more than me is my dad.
What a great gesture. Max, enjoy that game with your boys.
I'm sorry. And like I said, that was pretty cool. I mean, it's just a gesture. It's just a gesture of kindness. And with March Madness, if you still got a perfect bracket after all this, you're a freaking genius. But I digress. That being said, that's going to do it for this podcast, guys. Thank you all for liking, for watching, for letting people know it's live. I certainly appreciate it. Some shameless plugging before we do get out of here, guys. Always do want to shout out APR TV. Why? Because the Frack We Got Here can be seen on APR TV. It's an app that's on the Roku channel or it's on Amazon Fire. along with other shows there that you've seen as well. Check it out. You will not be disappointed with APR TV. Also, BlurStation.com. We talked about BlurStation.com for a couple of years now, guys. It is the site. It is a streaming site that has content for us, by those that create that content, get to own it. Movies, television, anime, you name it, $10.99 a month to stream it. And Blur Station can be streamed on all smart devices. Definitely check that out. Also, check us out at How the Frack We Got Here on YouTube. Literally, I even tested it. Even typing in How the Frack We Got Here brought up How the Frack We Got Here. Usually I say How the Frack We Got Here podcast, but How the Frack We Got Here came up as well. Like, share, subscribe, hit that notification button so anytime that we do go live, you will definitely be notified about it. Thank you, everybody that has done that. And simply put, guys, we cannot do this without your support. So thank you. And if you haven't already, definitely check us out there. Also, check out Blurred's Eye View. Also, Blurred's Eye View on YouTube as well. It is the Blurred podcast that I can say I'm probably a part of. Every Tuesday and Thursday, we do try to, make it funny, make it homecoming at the same time, make it informative and empowering. I also bring up the Blurred's Eye View YouTube page because basically you can follow us all there. You can follow Roomful of Blurs as she does indie comics, independent comics, along with Navy Montel every Sunday night, 7 p.m. You can definitely follow her there. Geek by Heart, where Jay and his wife and Lainey and Jay usually do television and video game reviews. They also do streaming as well, so definitely check them out as well. Tafara TV Gaming, Tafara TV's second gaming channel, to which he does modern retro gamings, and he does it all while on a treadmill. He is definitely the originator for that. Of course, my other show, Gibbet Podcast, every Friday, 8:30. Definitely like us, follow us there. How the Frack We Got Here, as you can see that. Navy Montel, the BlurCon Conversations, as he usually does conversations with dope podcasters, also gaming of his own. Showquo, our looter shooter, does games like Overwatch as well. Lore of the Culture, that usually follows comics, everything that's going on in Hollywood. And Tafara TV's original channel, you can definitely follow them there. And last but not least, they're not pictured here, but definitely check out Whoop-De Freaking Do and Fresh Press by Z for all your nail needs. You will not be disappointed. Also, guys, we are also on Spotify at How the Frack We Got Here, and especially on Apple and Google Podcasts. So wherever you get your podcast, whether you listen to it or where you can see it, definitely check it out. You will not be disappointed. Before I do get out of here, guys, mental health is everything. I cannot stress this enough. Whatever the mind does, the body follows. Please take advantage of all those services and therapy things that can get out there. So if you are not feeling your best, please do everything you can before you take that last option, before you take the self-exit, which we don't want. You are here, you are wanted, you are needed to add your verse to this song of life that we're all dancing to. At the same time, men, black men in general, I cannot stress this enough, guys. Please go to the doctor. I know it's hard. It's hard for us to actually get to the doctor sometimes, but hey, I cannot say anything. I'm 43 years old. I know there's some things coming up that I am not looking forward to, but I do these things to make sure that I'm around for the long run. So, men, please get checked out. Also, work it out. Look, I'm a workout nut. I try to work out 5 days a week in the gym, but workout and exercise, it's just part of it. Please get checked out and make sure that you're okay. At the same time, guys, go outside, enjoy the weather, touch some grass, check on your friends, enjoy life, because you don't want to get wrapped up in the doom scrolling, because then you're going to think that the world is ending and then you become a red hat. We don't want that. Go outside, enjoy life, breathe. It's going to be okay. That being said, guys, last thing to say about How the Frack Got Here, it's all about staying informed. We are not trying to reinvent the wheel, guys. We're simply giving you all the information allow you to make up your own mind. But we do provide a lot of perspective that goes along with it. We actually do a lot better when we're progressive. We move forward. We try to right the wrongs of our past, making decisions now that we should have done back then. Like electing our first black woman to the Supreme Court, electing our first black woman as a Federal Reserve governor, maybe one day electing our first black woman to be called Madam President. All great things. We don't learn from history. We are doomed to repeat them. That's why we keep asking ourselves, why does everything go about our paycheck? Why are we electing different politicians but still the same old game in Congress? And most importantly, How the Frack We Got Here. Thank you all for watching, guys. Please take care of yourselves and each other, and I promise we will get through this. Live long and prosper, guys. I'm out. Peace.